Mama, why aren't you in control of your kids? This question can come with a critical tone, can't it? It isn't as though a mama chooses to have no control over her kids on purpose. There are many variables to such a situation at home where the kiddos seem to have more control than the mom and maybe sometimes the dad than the other way around. Guess what? As usual, I like to blog about things I've actually experienced myself, and as a therapist and have seen a pattern of clients experience these kinds of things, I have a good bit of data. So there was a time in my life when you may have looked into my home and guessed that my little preschool girl and then grade school girl had one over on me. Others may have wanted to look at me and judge my situation, and when people do that, we can internalize those judgments pretty quickly into guilt and shame. If you're a mama who feels her kids have more power than you do, before you begin to judge yourself pretty harshly, let's think about some variables that could play into these things. And I'm going to name 10, but there's probably way more, but let's just start with these. So you may be a single mom struggling and tired. You may be a stay-at-home mom struggling and tired. You may be a working mom, guess what? Struggling and tired. You may not have the support you need from your spouse or your partner or co-parent or others. You may have postpartum depression. You may have a thyroid concern that's leaving you feeling greatly fatigued. You may have another type of mental health or chronic medical disorder, keeping you from being able to be more in control of your situation. You may think that if you discipline your kiddos or set boundaries over them, you're doing something wrong that will give them a dun-dun-dun complex. Which a complex is a term used in psychoanalytics, meaning something in the unconscious mind that gives that person a pattern of thinking or feeling that may not be helpful or beneficial for that person. You may not want the support of your spouse, partner, or co-parent because you have the belief system that they're going to do it wrong for some reason or harm your child somehow. You have a substance abuse problem and you're struggling to run your home effectively, so your kids are kind of out of control, taking over. So in a nutshell, you may have a mental, physical, behavioral, or situational pattern in your life that's making it difficult for you to set limits for your kids. For those who are in these situations, or rather those who are looking at these mamas on the outside wondering about what they're doing, it may be important for you to look at their life conceptually like this and kind of consider what that mom is dealing with before you begin to place blame. And then maybe see what you can do to help support them instead of criticize them. So let's talk for a moment about just a few of the 10 issues I mentioned a second ago. I want to discuss the issue of feeling like you may be giving your kid a complex if you discipline them. This was a part of my parenting concern, along with some comorbidities, meaning like different disorders at once. I had tiredness, physical and emotional issues after my divorce about a decade ago. I had thyroid problems after I had my kiddo. I had Hashimoto's, and I had a ton of stress. I was literally breaking my teeth from grinding and stressing so hard in life at that time. So a lot of times it's really hard to then put the focus on the discipline for the kid and set those limits, as it was for me in that moment. So you could kind of look at it as like I had adjustment issues, attachment issues, and mental and medical issues kind of all simultaneously as a comorbidity over my life. So if we just look at the belief system that if I discipline my kid too much, he will have a complex or a future pathology or a hang-up, we already have a lot to notice there. I would recommend this as something that you should break down with a therapist, because this is an area where we tend to have a lot of mommy guilt, right? And as for me, I already had a truckload of that due to also having been divorced and all that entails for my kiddo. Essentially, we are trying to protect our child. Of course, that's what we're generally trying to do. We just don't have like the right belief systems about how to do that. It could be vital that we have some professional support to help break down those kind of unhelpful belief systems regarding our thoughts and emotions, or even beginning with the somatic or our physical reactions towards disciplining them. Maybe discipline was very scary for you, so it really tenses you up to even think about disciplining your kiddo, or even setting a limit or a boundary for them. Maybe limit setting for you as a child was somehow scary or traumatic for you, so that would be something to notice and talk to a therapist about. And then, you take on that thing as something that you just write off completely. I'm not going to discipline my kid. I cannot do that to them. That's going to create what it created for me, which is like a certain pathology or a certain belief system about yourself. Unfortunately, what we try to do to yield from a complex also can create another swarm of problems. So children who aren't disciplined can end up struggling with more important limitations later in their teens or in their adult life. And not know where the healthy ceiling is over their behavior. We must remember children are not used to this planet. Little children just got here. They're not oriented like we are as adults. They need to understand limitations in order to flourish, and they can't understand those limitations without teachers teaching them those limitations. So that's something to keep in mind about children, is they literally don't know. So if you said to a child, for instance, act your age, or you know what you should be doing, well, do they? Because they just got here, right? Or they're 7 years old or 6 years old, and they really need you to teach them like child 101, like human 101. I don't actually know how to do that. And so that's something to keep in mind. So security comes with the safety of boundaries for all of us, let alone our children. It could be helpful to speak with a therapist about why you're feeling guilty or afraid of setting limits for your child. It's also never too late to start. Hopefully that's encouraging. Yes, your kiddo might be shocked at your late onset of limit setting, and for them to protest greatly would be expected. This is new and confusing for them if you start to sort of ruffle those feathers, but in the long run, it's for their best. And I really took on the phrase when I started to finally settle into like, I'm going to set some limits. I would start to say, I am the parent and you are the child. That's just how it is, isn't it? Like I have the authority, and you're the child who needs to learn this thing from me. And then at the same time, my very favorite thing to start saying, and still is my very favorite thing to say, is if I didn't care about you, I would let you do whatever you want. But because I do care about you, I'm going to set a limit on this. Or I'm going to make you do that chore because it's helpful for you to learn as you go into adulthood. Or to have some sense of self-discipline. Or I'm going to have you study for the next half an hour because I care about you, and I care about your grades, and I care about your future. So your kiddo may hate this, but we are just going to keep reminding them of that anyway because we care. I'm going to end this video now. We can keep this conversation going another time. I just don't want to overstay my welcome. Please reach out to a local therapist if this has brought up new insight for you. These videos are never to make money or do anything like that for me. They're just all in the name of wanting to get help out there for people that could use it. So also, please dial 911 if you're in a life-threatening situation. Thanks for listening. Take courage on your journey, and we'll see you next time.